Welcome to traumaticbraininjury.com, the leading source for information on the web regarding resources for traumatic brain injury for survivors and families. My name is Stuart Cohen. Today's guest is Joanne Finnegan. Joanne is the Chief Executive Officer of Remed Recovery Care Centers, and over the last 20 years, Remed is one of the leading post-acute neurorehabilitation centers in the United States. Joanne Finnegan is a certified therapeutic recreational specialist by training and education. She is also the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of CARF, that's C-A-R-F, which is the Commission on the Accreditation of Rehab Facilities. CARF is the leading accreditation organization for rehabilitation services in the United States. Joanne Finnegan, Chief Executive Officer of Remed. Welcome to traumaticbraininjury.com.
Thank you.
Family gets news at the hospital that there's been a diagnosis of traumatic brain injury. For some people, it's their first introduction to brain injury or the term. And the questions I have for you is what next? What next for the family? What next for the survivor? All right?
Sure.
What is the reality of this diagnosis? What does the family need to know?
Well, I think it's probably one of the scariest times for any family of the unknown, because everyone is so different, and you get the diagnosis and you bring that up amongst a group of people, and everyone will have a different version of what this will look like. So I think for the family, it's really trying to get as much information as possible from credible sources.
What are credible sources? Who should they be talking to?
Well, I think primarily it's the physician. You know, what has happened and where are we right now, and what is, at least initially, what's the prognosis for this person?
Hospitals are busy places. Doctors have a lot of patients and things to do. How does the family become an advocate to find out what their survivor needs?
Well, first of all, and I know sometimes this is difficult, but being there. And I mean really being there, that you're there and you're available. I mean, we all know physicians typically will do rounds at very odd hours, 6 a.m., midnight, and, I think that families that really can mobilize themselves, pick one or two key people that are the conduits, are really much farther ahead of the game in terms of getting good, solid information to work from.
Sounds simple, but just find out when the rounds are there and make sure somebody's there to talk to the doc.
If you can, but, again, most docs, if there's other things going on, that schedule may not play out the same every day.
What does the family need to know on a step-by-step basis from the time that the diagnosis has been made until they're going to be discharged from the critical care facility or the hospital where they're an inpatient?
That's a really hard question to answer because really no two brain injuries are alike. So, I can generalize and say that even with a mild brain injury, you're going to have a situation, and I think families need to accept it early on, that there will be changes with this person, that life will probably not look exactly like it did before this.
All right. Now, there comes a point at which at the hospital there's going to be a decision made that there's really nothing more that can be done at the hospital. At that point, what does a family member need to do?
Well, I think the conversation is then, what's the next step? What else? So if the care has pretty much ended at the one facility, is there rationale and purpose for the next step of say, a rehabilitation-focused kind of program?
All right. What are the treatment options? Where can families go? Could you give us the range?
Sure. Again, it starts, typically it will start at either the emergency room or the trauma center. So someone would enter into one of those two places. Then typically they'll go to an acute care hospital until they're medically stable. If it's a regular course, then they may leave the acute care hospital and go to a rehabilitation hospital. And from there, it could be outpatient kinds of therapies, and then more of an extension of services, which are services that are provided in the post-acute world of rehabilitation, so more home and community focused.
What types of post-acute, after the acute care, hospitals or treatment centers are available?
Well, you have ones that would be either inpatient or residential focused, so ones that probably are going to work with that more moderate to severe kind of brain injury where the services and supports are created in a milieu environment. And if it's a mild brain injury, they may be able to get outpatient kinds of services or in the community services.
Okay. Do you have those kinds of services here at ReMed?
Yes, we do.
Give families and survivors some kinds of ideas of what these facilities look like and what kind of treatment they provide. Just a thumbnail sketch.
Sure. Well, again, in our model, we call them residential. You can call them inpatient or residential. You're going to find what simulates a home-like environment. So it's generally a house or an apartment where individuals live, and we provide what's called functional rehabilitation in that environment using the community as the classroom.
I know this is a controversial subject, but what's the purpose? I mean, if someone has a traumatic brain injury, has deficits, issues that require treatment, what is the purpose of post-acute treatment? What are you trying to do?
I think you're really trying to help someone relearn skills and abilities that they've probably lost from the brain injury.
Can it be successful?
Absolutely.
Can you give some examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll go from kind of mild to more severe. Someone with a mild brain injury may in fact do so well that they return to their original job. They're back at home with very few deficit areas. And something that they maybe experience is the need to use some kind of memory tool, a calendar book, nowadays the Palm Pilot, so that they're using a system that helps to aid their memory. And that may be all that they would need or require. But they know and their family knows that they're not able to retain some of the information like they used to. Someone with a more moderate to severe brain injury would benefit from repetition and structure in either an inpatient or an outpatient setting where there's a structure to every day and there's tools that help them to manage their life effectively. And many people experience success with that.
And the family and the survivors are going to have to consult with the providers in their area to figure out what kind of services are best available for the type of brain injury the person has.
The one thing I would say, though, is to keep in mind that, just going to a therapist or an outpatient center isn't really always the best option. That it really needs to be a team of professionals that have experience in brain injury.
And where should people go to find some resources to identify those types of organizations?
Well, I think the traumaticbraininjury.com website is certainly that resource. State organizations, the Brain Injury Association of America. I mean, there's websites and 800 numbers where you can call in and look for the kinds of services and supports for that longer term kind of situation.
Thank you, Ms. Fagan.
You're welcome.